I didn't know anybody here, I didn't speak the language, and I had like literally $500 that I borrowed from my Aunt Aggie. Welcome back everybody, it's another sunny Sunday here on the red couch, and I'm about to give you another Storytime video. Last week's Storytime was about why I don't like to eat in the main dining room on cruise ships. It's becoming a very popular video, I kind of anticipated that. I've also been getting some kind of mean comments about it, and you know, I have to say, in the last month, my viewership has been growing and growing, and along with that, also the comments have been growing, and also the hate. I've been getting some really mean comments lately on older videos too, and I guess it's just part of success on the internet and how the world works nowadays, but I don't know. I just thought I'd mention it. Yeah, last week's Storytime was about why I don't like to eat in the main dining room, and then I also posted the first part of my ship tour of Royal Caribbean's Freedom of the Seas. We had such a good time on that cruise. The links are listed in the description below, or just search for Storytime, why I don't like eating in MDR, or Freedom of the Seas ship tour, and maybe it'll show up. Today I'm going to tell you about how and why I originally left the United States. Alright, to clear it up, I need to go like way back to before I moved to Europe. I live in Germany now, and I've lived here for more than 19 years. I can't believe it, actually, how quickly 19 years can go by. I am a trained musical actor. I went to school for musical theater at the University of Wisconsin, Stevens Point. Hey, pointers. And basically my whole life I've been working in the entertainment industry, either on stage or behind the scenes, creating live entertainment. At the time that I made the move, I was working on stage as an actor, and I was living in New York City. I had been there for about 3 years, had done several touring productions of shows and some smaller productions inside of New York City, and I have to say, I hated living in New York City. When I first moved there, it was really exciting. I had a lot of friends who I had known before I moved to New York City. We all sort of moved there at the same time, and were sleeping on each other's couches, and we were young and adventurous, and it was a fun adventure. But then after like 2.5, 3 years, I just realized that I was sick of always being broke, even when I was making good money, not having a nice quality of life, and I just didn't like living there. I know people tell me all the time that I was crazy for leaving New York City. Like, people say, oh, I've been on vacation to New York 3 times. I love it there. I can't believe that you lived there and moved away. And I think, yeah, being on vacation in New York is not the same thing as living there. I think anybody who's moved to like Miami or Orlando or something will tell you the same thing. Being on vacation there is not the same thing as living there. So, I was auditioning for every production I could, either in New York or a tour or outside of New York, and there was an audition for the musical Grease, which was a long-running production that transferred from Vienna, and then from Vienna to Dusseldorf. Choreographer was Dennis Callahan, who's done a lot of stuff in New York. He also choreographs for the Radio City Rockettes. At least he did back then. I don't know if he's still doing that. And I auditioned for him in New York for the production of Grease that was in Dusseldorf, Germany at the time. And I got offered the job. And I wasn't sure if I really wanted to do it, because things were starting to sort of really take momentum for me in New York. And my agent at the time, Sharon Carey, I don't know if she's still around, maybe I should Google her. She was like, Morgan, you're not going to Germany, I want you to stay here. Things are really starting to pick up for you, you're getting a lot of calls, I think you should stay here. But I just was so sick of the city, and so I decided to take a contract and go to Germany and try it out. That is sort of how it originally happened. So Sharon negotiated the contract, picked the production company told me when they needed me to be there, and I mean, I didn't have an apartment. I was just subletting and literally like moving from couch to couch to couch. Had all my stuff in 2 huge bags, and it was like being on tour in New York. Like I said, it was just awful. I really, even being in the adventurous time that I was in my life, I was done. And so I was so happy to have a job originally it was for an entire year contract, but when I got there, we found out that the show was going to be closing in 6 months, but that's neither here nor there. So, how did it actually work? I'll tell you something. I've been in touch with a lot of my friends and a lot of other people who write to me who say, I really would love to move to Europe, not necessarily Germany, but like move to Amsterdam or move to London or whatever. How did you do it? And I have to say, it's not as easy as just packing your bags, buying a plane ticket, moving there, finding some place to live, and then start applying for jobs. It doesn't work that way at all. I mean, it doesn't work that way for people coming to the United States either. And, you know, some people are even building a wall to make sure that that doesn't happen. So, if you want to move to a different country, very important is, first you need to get a job there. Like I said, you can't just move there and then start looking for a job because you don't have the papers that you need, the work permit and the permanent visa that you'll need to do it. So don't make that part of your plans. Basically, like I said, I applied to a company, I auditioned for this production company, and they said, yes, we want you and we'll take care of the paperwork. So they got me my working visa, they got me my sort of like a temporary green card. It was attached to the conditions in my contract, so as long as the contract ran, I could stay there and work for this company. They bought me the plane ticket, they helped me get an apartment, and that's how it worked. So I moved to Germany from New York with all my stuff in 2 great big bags, and I think I had like $500 saved up. No, actually, I borrowed money from my Aunt Aggie. Aunt Aggie gave me $500 to get started, and that was in June of 1998. That's when it all happened. So when I got here, I mean, when I think back to doing it now, it seems so crazy because I didn't know anybody here. I didn't speak the language, and I had like literally $500 that I borrowed from my Aunt Aggie. Of course, I knew I had a job, and I had been in touch with the production company, and I knew when rehearsals were starting and when my premiere was going to be. The show was already running. I was just getting put into it. So that was really nothing to be worried about. And I had met other people in New York who had been part of this production previously, so I knew that everything was cool. But it just seems weird to me that I like left everything behind and just moved to Europe. I can't imagine doing that now. Well, I can, but like my life is just so much bigger now. You know, now I've got Marcus and an apartment full of stuff and a cat, and I mean, of course, financially, I'm much more stable now than I was back then, but whatever, that's not what you're here to listen to. So, I'm trying to think of some of my first memories. Made it to the airport, got picked up by somebody from the production company, and they had set up, like right away in the first couple of days, a couple of apartments for me to look at that were within the budget of the money they were giving me to pay for my living expenses. So for the first week or so, I was living in a hotel. And that was not a big deal for me. It was definitely much nicer than the apartment I was living in New York before I moved over. So I was happy about that. And I looked at 2 or 3 apartments, and actually, in hindsight, they weren't necessarily very nice as far as German standards go, but they were all so much nicer than the apartments that I was living in or staying in New York that I was like, oh my gosh, this is like heaven. So I ended up moving into like a studio apartment with its own kitchen and a little desk area, and a little, the bed was sort of in the corner, and then it had a separate bathroom with a shower and tub and a separate like sort of mini walk-in closet, and I have no pictures of it at all. I can't believe that I never took any pictures of that place. I have a very clear memory of what it looked like in my head, and I've walked up and down the street where it was many times in the years past, but I wish I could show you some pictures of it. Like I said, it really wasn't that nice, but it was so much nicer than the places I was living in New York, so I was happy about that. I started rehearsals and got put into the show, and shortly after I started rehearsals, like I said, we found out that the show was going to be closing after 6 months, and I was cool with that because I thought, I'm going to do the show, get the experience, make some new connections, save up a bunch of money, which I didn't, and then I'll go back to New York and start a fresh start. And that's exactly actually what I did. After Grease finished, I had auditioned for a couple more productions that were in the Broadway and Germany scene. There's a lot of musicals in Germany, and when I moved to Germany back then, the scene was like exploding. Like at that time, there was Grease, Miss Saigon, Beauty and the Beast, Starlight Express, Joseph and the Amazing Technicolor Dreamcoat, Cats, and I'm sure there were others, and these were like the original productions with the same set, choreography, orchestrations, and everything that were in the West End and in New York, and they were just produced by the same people in Germany. Oh, this is a question that a lot of you are going to be asking. Yes, the shows were in German, and I didn't speak any German when I moved here. So the rehearsal process was quite a bit longer than a normal rehearsal process would have been, because I had to learn everything in German. With the production of Grease, the music and lyrics were, well, you know, obviously the lyrics were in English, but the show text, the scene text was in German. So I literally would have my musical rehearsals, and then I would meet with a speech therapist who taught me phonetically how to say each syllable of my lines in perfect German so that it wasn't obvious that I was not one of the German actors in the show. And that actually helped me a lot to learn the language. And I know some people have a big problem learning foreign languages, but for me, I learned German really quickly. And I speak it fluently now. And I do have an accent when I speak it, but most people say that I sound more like I'm from Sweden or Norway and not like I'm from the United States. And if you want to see me speaking German, I have made a video about the AIDAluna cruise ship in German. It's on my channel. Try to link it in the description below, but I forget these things all the time. So just do a search for AIDAluna a cruise tour or something, and I'm sure it'll pop up in the search results. All right, a little bit more to the story, because I actually did move back to New York City. Grease finished. I had auditioned for a couple other productions. I know I said this already, and nothing came through, so I decided to move back. I moved back, got another sublet in an apartment with like 3 other people. We all were sharing rooms. It was way up in like 195th Street or something in Manhattan, and I was kind of excited to go back, but it didn't take very long, like literally 3 or 4 weeks, and I was like, gosh, this is just not my thing. I don't like being here. And then another audition came up for Miss Saigon, and I went to it, and it worked out. And then like not even 3 months after I had moved back to New York, I was back in a plane to Germany to join the production of Miss Saigon, which was running in Stuttgart at the time. And that was the summer of 1999, and ever since then I have lived in Germany. I haven't had an apartment or an address in the United States since then. And yeah, I mean, I've been here for 19 years and I love it. I love the culture. I love the political situation. People ask me all the time if I could ever consider, or if I would ever consider moving back to the United States. And I think, yeah, I think about it a lot. I think about all the cool job opportunities there are for somebody like me in Orlando or in Las Vegas or in Los Angeles. Mostly what I miss, and this is something I miss a lot, is my family, because I'm the only person I know from my family who lives here, and everybody else lives in the United States. And so that's a big factor, is that I feel like I wish I could see my family more, but I know that if I were to move back to the United States, I wouldn't be living where they live. I would be back in New York, or I would be in Orlando or Las Vegas, and I would have less vacation than I do now, and be probably making less money, and be paying way more money for health insurance and things like that. So I don't know if I would see my family more often then than I do now. You know what I mean? I don't know. Maybe I would. I would hope that they would come visit me more often than they do now. But, you know, flying from Minnesota to Florida is a totally different story than flying from Minnesota to Hamburg. I get it. As far as how it happened that I stayed so long, after Miss Saigon, I got pretty lucky and just kept getting contract after contract after contract. And eventually I became part of the premiere cast of the production of Mamma Mia here in Hamburg. It was the first non-English language version of that production. And that was a huge hit, like all productions of Mamma Mia were back then. And I ended up staying with that for around 7 years. Was on all the original promotional appearances. I'm on the CD, actually, the German language CD. And because I just kept getting a new contract and a new contract, I mean, my contract just kept getting extended year after year after year. Eventually, what do you call it? The Office of Foreign Affairs or whatever, they just offered me my permanent visa. Because up until then, every time I got a new contract, I had to go back there and reapply for a visa to stay and work. And so now I basically have my permanent green card. I don't have citizenship. I'm still a citizen, or I'm a citizen of the United States, but I'm a resident of Germany, which brings certain advantages and disadvantages with it. I have no plans at the moment, even though I'm kind of upset with the political situation in the United States right now. I have no plans at the moment to give up my citizenship, because now I can stay here as long as I want and work here as long as I want, and I can go back and forth to the United States as much as I want. And if I were to give up my United States citizenship, I could still stay here and work here as long as I want. However, and I don't like to talk about it, but like if somebody in my family got sick and I wanted to go back and stay in the United States for like 3 months or a half a year, or if Marcus and I decide that we really do want to try to move to the States and start there or something, I wouldn't be able to do that. I would be seen as a foreign citizen, and I would have to go through everything I went through when I moved to Germany again, but going back to the United States. And so that's why I haven't given up my citizenship, even though I've lived here for 19 years and don't have any definite plans now to go back. All right, that's my story time. I hope that answered all your questions. It kind of went a little bit away from, I like to keep the topic on this channel to travel related, but because I know a lot of you were asking me about it, and you know, moving to a different country is sort of travel related. I mean, it's a huge travel experience. I thought I'd talk about it. If you want to make some more suggestions about Storytime videos, like I said, I'm always interested in your ideas. I try to keep it travel related. Coming up on my channel this week, I'm going to post probably the second part of the Freedom of the Seas ship tour video. It's going to be a busy week for me in my real life job this week, so I might end up posting another video which takes a little bit less editing. Don't be mad. And next week I'll post another Storytime video, and I might have a little surprise for you. I'm not sure how it's going to go yet, but I guess you'll see next week. Thanks for watching, and please subscribe if you haven't done that yet. Follow me on Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter, and if you want to give me a little tip, you can do that at patreon.com/veryunofficial. Bye-bye.